So I'm here at the home of Karen and Bob Hoyt, and I cannot tell you how awesome it is to see their little pollinator garden. So let's take a look. Karen invited me over for a quick tour of the little slice of heaven that is their backyard. Karen is going to show me around and teach me about some of the beautiful native prairie plants she and Bob have cultivated and nurtured. Karen, thank you so much for the invitation and your time to show me around. Explain to me what we're looking at.
Old reconstructed prairie, and it was planted where there used to be a boring lawn. So we killed it off, and now it's safer for my husband, who doesn't have to mow on this hill. But it's covered with all native plants, and I tend it lovingly, get rid of those weeds, and they are thriving. They don't care if it's a drought. They just laugh.
I'm curious, what was your motivation for establishing this planting?
Stuffing with leaves and compost and bags of topsoil to try and stop the erosion. But what really worked was planting the right plants to put down their roots. And the two plants that worked well for us is the grass called cordgrass. It forms a network of underground rhizomes to hold the soil in place.
Prairie cordgrass, absolutely.
And also Canada anemone, which is a beautiful carpet with white flowers in the spring.
Excellent. Using native plants that are functional, the many benefits of all of these great native plants.
One interesting note about the cordgrass is that they used to call it ripgut, and it was a nickname because when the buffalo would run across the prairie, the leaves were so coarse they would slice their bellies.
Wow. Well, that makes sense. I suppose it was at the right height.
Right.
The animals traveling through.
And if you feel those long, slender leaves, they have a smooth side and a really coarse side. They're really tough, long, elegant leaves, and the Indians also used them for basketry.
Makes sense. The many wonders of the prairie.
There's just so much competition between these various prairie plants that you have to focus, instead of pulling weeds, you have to focus on which natives to rein in so they aren't allowed to take over.
I hardly ever see this anywhere near this big. And I'm not sure I've ever seen this flower.
The bees absolutely love this. One time I was walking down the steps where we have a lot of these that planted themselves along our steps, and I could hear this buzzing, and I thought our neighbor must be sawing wood over there. and then as I continued down the steps, I realized, oh my gosh, this is the bees at work.
Oh, look at the bee right there. Bumblebee. Hey, little buddy. And that's why we do it right there. Look at all the insects on these native plants.
Those are anise hyssop.
Anise hyssop. And there's one in particular that really caught my eye. So we're going to move down here. Most of the liatris is done, and so I can only imagine what that looked like. But now there's this here. Now what are we looking at here?
This is the meadow blazing star.
The meadow blazing star.
I know it's the monarch's favorite because I watch them flutter around my prairie, and I already know before they land which plant they're going to go for, and it is this one. They love it.
Fantastic. Would you look at that? Right here in the middle of Marion, Iowa, this little oasis down by the creek, we can provide pollinator habitat just about anywhere, folks. So what are a couple of the species that we're looking at here?
This one is Showy Golden Rod. I just love it so much. It's going to burst into these beautiful yellow plumes that are just starting to open. So it's not as colorful as it will be in a few days, but there are lots of yellow flowers blooming this time of year.
Now these are the asters, right?
These are asters, and they're not as tall as you might think they should be, but I do like the deer do, and that's cut them off early in the spring. They eat them, I clip them, and then that allows them to bush out and make more flowers for the pollinators in the fall. This one here is stiff goldenrod, and it's just coming into its own this time of year. It's just showing its yellow flowers, and it's one of the beauties that you have to wait for. And here we have Indian grass. There's a lot of Indian grass, and it's just beautiful, set to motion by the wind in the fall. It's so three-dimensional compared to, let's say, an ordinary lawn. You walk through it and you get a sense of history. This one's called rosinweed. It's one of the many bright yellow daisy flowers that we see throughout the prairie later in the season. It's a really tall plant, and you can see it's holding its own next to these Indian grasses. Well, this is called ox-eye daisy. I'm not sure if it really looks like an oxen's eye, but it helps me remember the name of it.
Now, what in the world are we looking at here?
These are indigo plants, and right now what you're seeing are the seed pods. But in the spring, these have beautiful blooms that are sort of like, they look like legumes. So they're a unique kind of flower that forms a spike shape, and they just tower above the smaller plants that are growing this time of year. At this point, the pods are turning crispy, and if you shake them, you can hear them, and the Native Americans used to use them for baby rattles.
Now, this is an interesting plant. What in the world are we looking at here?
This one's called Cytotes grama, and you can tell why if you bend this to the side. Usually those, the inflorescence, they dangle from the side and will produce tons of seed. My grandchildren love pulling them off like this. Look at that.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Unique green color with the wine color alternating in the little blue stem makes it a real stunner in the fall. Really helped keep this little prairie healthy is that we do an annual burn every spring. So all the plants that you see here have reached this height in August after being burnt down to the ground in the spring in April.
It's an amazing sight here from the Karen Hoyt deck, looking at this beautiful native prairie behind me, reconstructed prairie full of natives. We have everything from purple coneflower to lead plant, compass plant, little blue stem, and more.
I'd like to thank both Karen and Bob for the tour, their dedication to natives, and the inspiration to utilize native prairie forbs and grasses in residential landscapes. Thanks again.